All right, well, we got some interesting news coming out here with who's not playing tonight in the NBA. That might make you change your mind just a little bit on some of these teams and who you might want to play. And the good news is, well, we got two guys here. They're going to help us navigate through it with Andy Lang, the prop god, as well as Mr. Rob Veno, ready to roll. Don't call me Matt Painter. We are all set here, gentlemen, in what is actually one of the better cards here, I think, tonight that we've had in a little while. Yes, we'll have some double-digit favorites because the NBA hates us and will force us to watch some of these games that the Toronto Raptors continue to play. But like we saw last night, the contrarian gods were on Portland on this show yesterday. I mentioned it yesterday, Rob Veno. I forwarded that information to those joining us and literally got laughed out of the chat room. That I bet. How could you look at Portland? Oh, my God. No. Well, needless to say, not a lot of people in the chat room were laughing last night. Now, were they? Now, the good news is, contrarian gods have an even more disgusting play tonight that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. But welcome to those that are stopping in here on today's show. Let's start with the latest who's in and who's out, the injury news that we know. And the latest, of course, is going to be with the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. Derek Lively has been ruled out with a knee issue for sure. There will be they'll miss him. But this was a game here, Veno, that opened up like a pick'em. I mean, it was -1, I think, last night. We saw Golden State Warriors. It's a pick'em now still. The total still hovering around 232 here. I know Dallas would love to have him banging around, grabbing a few boards. He's certainly an exciting player for them, but does it make you change your mind about this Mavs-Warriors game right now, knowing he's out?
Well, it could change it let's go from the perspective of defense, Joe, because the Mavericks defense, if folks haven't noticed, has been outstanding. Last 10 games, they're the second-rated defense in the NBA. They haven't given up over 107 points in 9 of their last 10. And Derek Lively, of course, is a big part of that. The two-headed center that they've created there in Dallas with the acquisition of Daniel Gafford back at the trade deadline has come into play. And I think it was noted to me that P.J. Washington is also a huge part of this defensive effort. P.J. Washington now being recognized as the best defensive three they had since they traded Dorian Finney-Smith out of there to New Jersey. So you have a front line that features 3 of those guys inside the rotation. And all of a sudden, if Dallas is going to hold teams to 107 or less, Joe, they're going to win an awful lot of games. They have a chance to win the West if they're going to do that, because we know that they can score. Luka's bouncing balls off scoreboards and off backboards and into the hoop. So they've got enough offense. But Lively does affect the defense. It'll be interesting here tonight when he's not with him not being on the floor, whether or not they can hold true to this 107 or less that's been going on 9 of last 10. I like the way Dallas is headed right now. They've been a really good road favorite. They're not in that role tonight, but they've been excellent as a road favorite. Golden State actually, guys, returning home after an extended road trip. We always like to fade those. So there's still reasons to like Dallas. I think if where Lively comes into play might be a little more toward the total. But the way Dallas is going, I still think this might be an under.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, we really want to step in front of this Dallas train. I mean, they've been playing phenomenal, right? Golden State, and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but isn't Golden State better on the road than they are at home? It feels like it's been one of those what's up is down, what's left is right kind of years with Golden State, but no Derek Lively in this one. Andy, from a prop betting perspective, we're still waiting to hear on Kuminga, by the way. Still a question mark in this one, which is obviously pretty important to Golden State. But I would imagine all other parties involved will be ready to go here. How were you looking at this game here tonight?
This is a really tough one. There's only one that kind of stands out. It's a little bit of an obscure one, but I think it's worth playing. That's Dante Exum will have a 3-pointer tonight. It's minus 160, but yeah, it's minus 160, but he's been hitting a lot recently. What is it, 22 out of the last 30 games? He's hit away. He's been really good, 6 in a row. In the last couple games, he's hit 3, 2, and 2, and they're only asking us to get 1 tonight. He was 3 of 3 against Houston, 2 for 5 against Sacramento, 2 for 3 against Sacramento. So getting around 3 attempts. If he gets 3, we only need him to make 1. So, yeah, without knowing what to do with Kuminga, it looks like Clay's probably going to play. But there's not a lot of props I like in this game. So, but Dante Exum, sometimes you only need one kind of simple, easy one. He's been shooting the ball pretty good. So, just overall from the field goal, he's averaging almost 50% the last few games. So, decent amount of minutes, too. He's averaging 18.6 minutes this month. So gets enough minutes. We only need him to hit 1. That'd be the best prop in this game.
Oh, I love it. All right. So we got Golden State, obviously, with Dallas is a big one here tonight. Also a pretty big one with news that we got just within the last hour regarding the Los Angeles Clippers on the road taking on the Sacramento Kings. And this was a big line flip here once we learned that Kawhi Leonard out tonight as well for the Clippers, which makes this an interesting game. 3.5 is what we saw it open up in last night with the Clippers. I am seeing 2.5s now the other way for the Sacramento Kings. The total, ironically enough, has kind of stood still. 221.5 is what we are seeing there. So, Rob, Veno, no Kawhi. Is it no Clippers for you, or is this a complete overreaction once again with a star player going out and the market flips it, 6 points, 5.5 points?
Yeah, I would treat it that way, Joe, the latter, as a complete overreaction because, I guess it's just whatever you hear last is where you run with your money. But Sacramento is still without Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter for the rest of the season, basically. I mean, you start looking at their depth in that backcourt, and it's minimal for the Sacramento Kings. When they come off the bench, it's basically Davion Mitchell, and that's it. They're trying to work Chris Duarte in. He hasn't really played all season. Now they're going to try and shove him in there. But other than that, there's not a lot for the Kings. The one thing we can say about the Clippers is they are a deep team. They can still go 8-9 deep off the bench and not worry about it. Norman Powell's going to step in for Kawhi. Certainly not the defensive player, but Norman Powell capable of 20+ on any given night. I think the bigger problem that I have with the Clippers is just their recent performance covering point spreads, right? They have won 3 in a row straight up, which is basically all they'll need to do here, which is another reason to like them. But against the point spread, 1-5 over the last 6, 2-7 over the last 9. It's not an impressive point spread, Mark, but love that as a favorite. So I think here in this role, Joe, now accepting points, even without Kawhi, you have to look Clippers because I think that the loss of Huerter and Monk combined just hurts Sacramento a little bit more than it does the Clippers. They've played enough without Kawhi this year to know how to do it.
Yeah, well, it's, that's we're at that point in the season here, aren't we, though, that it's down the stretch here. They have kind of been dragging to the finish line here. The Clippers have. I know there was a whole lot of non-Clipper backers in the chat rooms and in the comment section yesterday. Not a lot of big fans here of the Clippers long term. But Andy, when you look at this game here, I mean, the Kings have also burned a lot of money, at home laying points this year. This has not been a light your ass because they ain't lighting no beam in that building here this year. It has been light your cash on fire because that's what's happened here when you've backed them at home. How are you looking at this one here tonight?
I'm out on the Clippers for the rest of the regular season. They're the last 15 games. The worst defensive rated team is the Utah Jazz. Makes sense. They're tanking. The second worst is the Toronto Raptors. Makes sense. They're tanking. The Clippers are third worst in the last 15 games. This is a team that has given up on defense. It does kind of make sense. You've got Paul George and Kawhi and Harden. Like why are we going to burn these guys' legs playing hardcore defense? Let's save it for the playoffs. So I'm actually in on the Sacramento Kings tonight. This is our same game parlay of the day. It gets plus 194, so call it plus 200 on this one. We're going back to our old favorite. Terrence Mann will make a three-pointer tonight. It's pretty juiced. It's minus 180, but he's made one in 13 straight games, 23 out of 30. And now that there's no Kawhi tonight, there should be a couple more attempts. He's hit at least 1-3 in the last 4 road games without Kawhi Leonard. So this has been client play for me with Terrence Mann just to hit a three-pointer. And these are great because if he hits one in the first quarter, no sweat, you're great. But then I'm going to add in the Sacramento Kings team total, and I'm going to go aggressive with this one. I'm going to take over 113.5. This is a Kings team that struggled to score points against Dallas, but they come out at home against Utah, and they put up 127. Again, we've gone over that Utah's bad on defense. Utah's not that much worse defensively than what the Clippers have been over the last 15, and you got the Clippers who are wrapping up a road trip. They beat Philadelphia 108-107. Orlando 197, but then Charlotte puts up 118 on them. I just kind of feel like that Sacramento kind of cruises in this one, and then you've got the Clippers who play Denver on Thursday. Possibly a little bit look ahead. I don't know. I just feel like the road game, the situation for Sacramento lines up really nice, and we're getting 2-1 on that one. I'll take it. So Terrence Mann will make a three-pointer. And then we'll throw the Kings over 113.5 on their team total. By the way, they played not too long ago in Sacramento, February 25th. But Sacramento scored 123. I know rosters are a little bit different, but they've had recent success against them.
I love it. Yeah. Big shout out to D-Rock764 in Instagram, by the way. Big Clipper fan there. Sending a shout out to the Clippers. Kawhi, no Kawhi, still likes him in this spot here tonight. And, of course, I know Have in the chat room wants nothing to do with the Clippers. He wanted nothing to do with them last night. Would have rather just threw Harden off the team if at all possible. But give it time. The season's not over yet here, gentlemen. If you are joining us, in fact, the Contrarian Gods yesterday came in and told you Portland, who the hell was Orlando to be laying 16, 17 points at home, and you got kind of got scoffed at. But the good news is they are on another disgusting team here. We're going to give you in just a second. But go ahead and hit that like button if you can do it. Certainly, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome in here to WagerTalk TV. If you hit that subscribe button, you'll get notified, of course, every time we send out and post some great content all week long, daily and weekly content across the board for you here. So become part of that WagerTalk TV family and hit that subscribe button oh boy, Veno, I hope you're sitting down. I think you are, which is a good thing here because this is some ass right here. The Contrarian Gods called earlier. They are riding straight from Portland last night in that dumpster fire right into the Utah Jazz here tonight. But can I tell you, as I'm looking at the odds right now, this line has been crashing towards Utah too, which is interesting. Now, we know also Donovan Mitchell ruled out, coach's decision, obviously maintaining some minutes there. Markkanen is out for the rest of the year. We already know that because of a shoulder injury, so he won't be sniffing the court. So what we've got here is a whole lot of very young, talented Utah Jazz players here that have been fighting, to say the least here. You know, they certainly, I wouldn't call what Toronto has been doing fighting, but, when you've got Sensabaugh out there has been really, really good for them. You know, these are guys here. George has been phenomenal. These are guys that are trying to make a name for themselves right now for Utah. Tough place to play still at home, right? If you are Cleveland without Donovan, it was 11.5. It's now 9.5. The Contrarian Gods are all aboard, taking those points here. What do you think about this matchup tonight?
Yeah, it's you come here once a year, you would think Donovan Mitchell would give it a go in his old stomping grounds, but obviously too hurt to do so here, so he won't play in this one. For Utah, you're right, Joe. It's a full-on youth movement, right? In fact, there's a little quote here from Sense Boss, since you mentioned his name. He said, for us rookies to be playing 30 minutes and starting together and all of that stuff is really important to us. He hit 5 threes in his last game. He had never had more than 2 in a game before that. Larry Markkinen, of course, out for the season. So you have basically Colin Sexton and Walker Kessler, and then a bunch of guys who are just getting minutes here to fill out the season. However, these guys aren't necessarily playing defense. For Utah, it's a long string of games. In fact, it's 15 of their last 17 where they've allowed at least 114 points in a game. They've lost 9 consecutive games straight up. They're 2-7 against the number. And the losses, Joe, 6 of the 7 against the number have been by 10 plus, which would make you not want Utah in any way, shape, or form. However, you talked about the game being a little bit on the smelly side to start this because Cleveland hasn't done a thing against the spread either, right? They're 2-5 against the number, 2-5 straight up, 1-6 against the number last 7. So it's, which side would you rather have here? I would tend to think that Utah's defense, which ranks last in transition points allowed, which ranks last on the season in 3-point defense, which ranks second to last in defensive efficiency over the last 10. And Andy mentioned they're the worst over the last 30. You can't help but score points. And actually, Cleveland games have been getting up and over the total. They've been involved in 5 consecutive overs. The question is, can you trust Utah to score with them, because Cleveland's a much better defensive team? And all season long, I had been a proponent of Jazz home team totals up and over. At one point, they were averaging almost 124 per game at home, but that number's come crashing down because they just don't score like that anymore with the rookies trying to mesh together and them Will Hardy piecemealing a lineup each and every night. So I think if I had to play it, I would go against the contrarian gods here and play Cleveland. They're in that playoff fight to hang on to their seed. I believe they're only a half a game ahead of the Knicks for the 3rd seed right now. So a win here in a winnable game is probably a must. Whether or not they can win by margin is the question. But I'll side with Cleveland since the Jazz have been losing by double digits on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, well, they both these, what's the word I'm looking for, Andy? Suck. That's basically what both these teams have actually done down the stretch. I mean, I get it for Utah because Utah's, listen, it's a full-on youth movement. I think Veno's absolutely correct. These kids have been playing pretty hard, although, 9 straight now? It's not been great. But, what's Cleveland's excuse? My goodness here. Now, knowing the kind of effort you're going to get here and knowing that won't have Markkinen or any of those guys here as usual. Are we honing in on any one particular player here from a prop betting perspective, Andy, or maybe even, I don't know, a dead under in this one here as well?
Yeah, we've got a prop in this one, and it is an under. It's Keontae George, under his points, rebounds, and assists. Most books have 26.5. There's a few that have 27.5. Take the under. This is a guy that's gone under 9 straight games. He's not shooting the ball well. He's getting volume, but that's about it. He's shooting around 33% from the field, not just 3-pointers, like from the field. He's not getting a ton of rebounds and assists. He's just not putting it together in all 3 categories. And the books keep hanging this big number on there. I know he's playing minutes, but he's really not getting that close to this number. And Cleveland, for all their faults, they've been good against guards in the last 30 days. Number 1 against point guard scoring, number 7 against shooting guard scoring. So to get over this number, you're asking Keontae George, A, to shoot way better than he has been the last 9 games. And you're asking him to also throw in a bunch more rebounds and assists. And also with this Utah team, there always is the potential for a blowout. They got blown out against Sacramento. So maybe he doesn't play a ton of minutes. So it's a messy game. I wouldn't want to have my money on the spread or an under. But Keontae George, we gave out as a free play against Sacramento. talked about it today on WagerTalk today. I think it's kind of one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's not getting close. 22-13, 23-17. And the books have his PRA number at 27.5. Feels way too high for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what was the term we got in the chat room here? Was it Eric going slop prop under all day in this disgusting game? And that is correct, Eric. That's where you make the money in exactly games like this, which is also, Veno, why I got to believe Laker fans are salivating a little bit here tonight, because I don't think it's a problem if you are laying double digits against the Toronto Raptors, since everybody else has and has had no problem covering. I mean, they are just total disgusting here. Lakers on the road, 11.5, 12, I think is what we are still seeing in this one. Still 12, 234. Actually, the total's starting to creep up here a little bit here. You're looking like Quigley and Barrett are probable. So I guess maybe that's a pretty good reason to want to go up and over the total here, which is why it's being pushed. But LeBron, shocker, and Anthony Davis, both questionable. But it wouldn't scare me to lay this kind of number against this Raptors team. Would it scare you?
Well, it wouldn't scare me to go over in some capacity, Joe, because we know whenever Emmanuel Quickly has been at the head of the engine here, or the key to start the engine, so to speak, for the Raptors, they just fly up and down the floor. Without him and RJ Barrett, they've been in a little bit of an offensive slide. They've obviously they started their tanking long ago. They don't care to play defense.
Oh, wait a minute, Andy. I'm sorry. Wait, hold on one second, Veno. We're getting it's coming out now that we got no Jalen Williams, no SGA tonight for Oklahoma City for the Sixer game here. So it looks like we know Embiid is out, and now there's some. It looks like there are some reports that Maxey might not be playing in this one either. So it looks like they took it off the board here in some spots. That changes the whole dynamic, I would think, of how people were going to look at this game. So just a caution here, as we've got that coming out now, and that line will be moving. We'll have more on this here in a minute, Veno. But go ahead. Over for you all day long here with the Lakers, Raptors. Not expecting a whole lot of defense, I don't think, from either of these two teams.
No, not at all, Joe. And I mean, we won't go through the Lakers over numbers, but they have been excessively over the total over the last month and a half. And the Lakers are up in the top 5 in team pay for quite a while now. They do go up and down. And the Raptors are going to go with them, as I was saying before we got the OKC news. So, I understand the push toward over. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way that I would try and talk somebody off of an over, but I don't know where, Joe, unless Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett come out and start a little bit slow as far as shooting is concerned. Maybe you want to avoid first quarter over, first half over. I don't know if you want to avoid it in the case of the Lakers. You could, kind of zero in and focus on them, first half total over, but full game looks like an over. Laker team total would look like an over. Once the Raptors get it going, I mean, the whole thing looks like an over by the time it's said and done. But I would maybe be a little skeptical of the outset with Toronto, since Quickly and Barrett have been out for quite some time and are getting back on the court here. Maybe early they don't have the scoring ability that they had before they, exited the lineup.
Yeah, we also hearing, too, that there could very well be no LeBron James in this game tonight, too, which would be very interesting. Not that I think it would matter outside of having to play maybe more D'Angelo Russell props there, Andy. And by the way, down to -1 OKC with the Sixers now. So that has come crashing down almost 6 points here. From 5.5 down to -1 is OKC on the road. No SGA, no Williams. And the total has crashed from 225.5 to 219.5. And Andy, with this Lakers team, I mean, heck, if I'm not getting LeBron, I can probably count on D'Angelo Russell to pick up some slack here in a game that looks like it's continuing to get pushed up. And I think it's the highest total on the board. Is there anybody worth taking a look at in this one?
Oh, man, I hope we don't get LeBron. D'Angelo Russell over his rebounds and assists, keeps cashing
yes.
when LeBron is out of the lineup. It's rinse and repeat. Just keep cashing. Even if LeBron plays. So you've got a non-competitive Toronto team. This has D'Angelo Russell written all over it. I'll take over at half, 2.5 3-pointers. I just love him. He'll light it up against non-playoff bad defenses. Against Brooklyn, he made 4 of them. Memphis, 5 of them. Philly, 4 of them. Atlanta, 6 of them. Against Sacramento, 1. Against Minnesota, 2. So anytime you have just these really bad teams, D'Angelo Russell's your guy. But in all seriousness, if LeBron is out, D'Angelo Russell rebounds and assists. I believe that is hitting 8 out of the last 9 games without LeBron. And then when LeBron plays, obviously there's a lot more stats that are gone. So, D'Angelo Russell, but obviously tread lightly. Make sure you know what the lineups are going to be before you play this one. It may come down to an hour before. We certainly have seen that in the NBA this season.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Andy. We're big believers on that here. That is for sure. We do have now, Veno, looks like it's still crashing. We're down to, I wouldn't be shocked if this thing becomes a pick'em here at some point. From 5.5 now down to -1 even. That total is crashed, 225.5 to 219.5 here with the Sixers. It'll be interesting to see what happens if Maxey, in fact, is also ruled out here. It almost feels like this is just we're hitting the reset button here, guys. But no SGA, no Jalen Williams, no Joel Embiid back here tonight, Veno. Do you have these two teams as currently constructed here tonight at a pick'em price somewhere in that ballpark?
Well, we could go over it here, Joe, real quick. I mean, for OKC, it looks like you're starting. Obviously, if SGA doesn't play, Josh Giddey can play point guard, so he takes over, right? You have Lou Dort. In place of Jalen Williams, you have Gordon Hayward, and you have Chet Holmgren. The other question is who will be the 5th guy in, and I would think that it would probably be Isaiah Joe, who they use an awful lot as a shooting guard. If Giddey's going to play the point, then Joe would probably be your shooting guard in this case against a team, of course, of guards as well, where Philly is concerned. So you kind of have a really smallish game. The 2 bigs would be Holmgren and Mo Bamba. It's interesting, Joe, just from a long-term perspective, that we hear an awful lot about, Joel Embiid is coming back. He's coming back. He's not even at shoot-around. He's not coming back. Even in the position that Philadelphia's in, I think that, and just hearing what I hear outside the Philly area here, they're way more concerned. They really don't care about being in a play-in. They'll go to the play-in as long as they can get Joel healthy, because this would have been a good game to bring him back. It's not like he would have to go down low and bang with anybody. Chet Holmgren is not going to bang. But they decided not to. So I think Philadelphia's playing the long game here, which is probably smart for OKC. We've known that SGA has been banged up since last week. They said they were monitoring it. They choose tonight not to play him. Williams off a big game, hurts his ankle. He doesn't play either. So I don't know how to figure this game. Honestly, Joe, Oklahoma City needs it because we often talk about that 3-way collision out west between them, Denver, and Minnesota. And Denver and Minnesota are both in action tonight. So Oklahoma City could lose that number 1 seed if they don't win this game. I think the best way to look at this would be wait till you see what happens with Tyrese Maxey. He was at shoot around today, but we don't know if he'll go. If he goes, could be a Philadelphia game. Always talk about Oklahoma City's depth and athleticism, and they do have it. And we talked earlier, their starting 5 is still pretty good. But I don't know. It's an interesting matchup, one that I probably will not get involved in one way or the other.
Yeah, it's now that we got some sort of clearer view here, Andy, on this, on who's in, who's out. And yeah, I would think maybe Giddey should be a focus here, but no Jalen Williams, no SGA in a game that is pretty still important for these teams. I don't know that Kyle Lowry's going to get as many minutes now. Also, I think it's going to be important that him and Embiid try to get on the same page when he eventually comes back here. So the whole idea that Embiid was everyone was pegging tonight's game as being the spot when he would come back. Yeah, it looks like maybe he's just not he's ready to come back here at this point. And OKC is not exactly a physical team, so I'm kind of shocked that this would have been the game. I really did think he'd be back tonight, but not yet. And what does that leave for us to look in the prop betting market right now?
Leaves us Josh Giddey under 1.5 made 3-pointers. When SGA is not in the when SGA is not in the lineup, he becomes more of a facilitator. Doesn't take nearly as many attempts. He's played 3 games without SGA this season. He's made 1 total. And even when you go back a couple years, I think total for his career, he's played 15 games without SGA, and he's only gone over 1 time. So, look for Giddey to just be a distributor with the ball, and you're getting a great price at minus 135. So, Josh Giddey under his 1.5 3-pointers. They used to have his total at just 0.5. So all he had to do was make 1, and he kept hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. And then they moved it to 1.5, and then he started going under anyway. So you got a nice trend going with this one. But the numbers tell you Giddey is going to be passing the ball and not shooting the ball nearly as much tonight.
Shout out to Desmond Castro joining us via his mobile and YouTube shorts. At OKC outright. I got no problem with that. Veno, you're a Philly guy. I got no problem taking him here at this price. You had mentioned it's interesting here. I couldn't talk anybody out of saying, just give me OKC on the money line. I'm good to go here tonight.
Yeah, I could see, like we're saying, Joe, it is an important game still. If they want to maintain that number 1 seed, and I think that's real important to them. It's important to Denver. It's important to Minnesota. It's important to all 3 of them. And as I mentioned, the other 2 are in action tonight, and the other 2 are both favorites in games at home that they should win. So for OKC, to have this Philadelphia game here, you really want to win that one and stay ahead. So we'll get effort. The question is, will effort be enough here against the group of Sixers? And I would say that without Maxey, it certainly is. And if you don't think Maxey's going to go, you probably bet it now, right? Because line's going to change if Maxey doesn't go. So as we sit here and wait and time ticks, a lot of this becomes, we talk about it in the NBA every afternoon, late in the afternoon like this. It's always a little bit of guesswork. But he was at shoot around, so we'll see how that goes. A difficult matchup, but Oklahoma City does definitely need it. And I don't know, again, I'll repeat this one more time. I don't think that Philadelphia actually cares to get into a 6th spot and be in the playoffs rather than a play-in. As long as Embiid is healthy, they're happy just getting in the play-in.
Yep. I agree 100%. I think, and this tells us, right, that they're much more interested in the long game than just trying to roll Embiid back out here for ticket sales or anything along those lines here. We do have a poll question up here today. We focused on what I believe a lot of people think will be the best game of the night, and it could very well be, because I'm not seeing anybody ruled out for these 2 teams, which is unusual at this particular point. I am seeing Caleb Martin is a go for the Miami Heat right now. Mitchell Robinson's still questionable from what I understood this morning, though. He was at the shoot-around, so it looks like I would believe Mitchell Robinson is going there. So we do have a couple of thoughts on this game here, and we asked how many of you thought the Knicks would go. Are we taking the Knicks money line? Are we taking the Heat money line here? And it's about 50-50. Well, not anymore. Warriors in there voting 150 times. So apparently Miami's getting a lot more love right now because Warrior is botting his way to that poll question there. But I do think it's going to be a pretty good game, and one that both of these teams find themselves in an interesting spot here as far as the playoffs coming and seeding. This is the healthiest that Miami has been. Tyler Hero, they're hoping will be back by the playoffs here, but for the most part, everyone else is available and ready to go. Andy, was there anybody in this? You usually have focused on Jimmy Butler in some spots here in the past over the season. At home here, anybody you looking at from a prop betting perspective here with Miami and the Knicks?
Yeah, actually, it's a roll of the dice. I could look very foolish or like a genius. Haywood Highsmith. They have his point total very, very low, like 4.5. And you look at Haywood Highsmith, and here's his minute totals over the last few games: 29, 28, 30, 25. So easily flying over his totals there. But then 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And I can't really figure out the correlation because he's played big minutes when Caleb Martin is in there, and then he's played like low minutes when Caleb Martin is. I really, truly can't figure out why. If he plays the 22, 25, 30, 28 minutes, like he's going to go over everything. Plays 5 minutes, he's going under everything. Yep. I don't know. I guess I figure he's probably gonna. They're gonna need him. I know they're getting healthy, but they're still not there. So I guess Haywood Highsmith would be the roll of the dice. Like I said, it's either easy over or easy under. I think I lean more towards the easy over on this one.
So it's interesting, Veno. I thought about you this morning. There, I did a morning show today, and the first thing that stuck out to me was this is the lowest total on the board, right? I think it's now down to 2. It was 207, 207.5. I think it's down to now 206, 206.5. And, at first glance, you can go, listen, I get it. Miami and New York are the 2 slowest paced teams in the NBA. Get that. They're not going to be in a rush to go anywhere, especially with New York going a little smaller now that if they haven't had Robinson or Anunoby, they're not in a rush to go anywhere either. But if you look at the last 4 or 5 games here for the Knicks, I mean, I'm not seeing anything below 110. I mean, 113 points, I think, somewhere in that ballpark. And it looks like Miami now, some of their results over the last couple of weeks have really centered around the fact of them not having any of their sharpshooters, they didn't have Duncan Robinson, right? They had one or the other, didn't have them both, and it was like they were just, we're going to grind this thing to a halt and try to win 98-95. I don't know that happens here tonight. It feels too low to me, and if the Knicks are going to get me 110 points, I know we're getting over this total here tonight.
Yeah, and I actually, Joe, I went to the home side. I mean, I'm always big on Miami team totals, right? Because I always think Miami's undervalued by the odds maker. And this year, as you mentioned, with all the injuries, they haven't really given me a reason to play them over. But it is like the great collision. You laid it out pretty good. New York is not the same team defensively when they don't have Anunoby, when they don't have Robinson. There's no doubt about it. They tend to give up many more points, as you described. And Miami's not the same team when they don't have their shooters. When those 3-point shooters are in, they obviously score more. So the 104.5 that we're given here as a team total for Miami is certainly based on season results and reputation. New York's defensive reputation, the slow pace reputation of both, the non-offensive reputation of Miami, all comes together in that 104.5, which may not be the case here tonight. These games, we talk about them all the time. They're situational, they're matchup based. I think Miami gets to 106 here, Joe, to tell you the truth. At home, they're trying to beat the Knicks for the first time this season. They've lost 2 to the Knicks already. At home, looking to make that playoff stretch run. It's hard to take anything at all statistically that we see from Miami this year and apply it now, right? Because they're just different all the time. So many injuries, so many different lineups. How do you apply that stuff, all those numbers, to what they have on the floor at this moment where Terry Rozier has now integrated pretty well into that lineup? So I like the Miami team total over. I couldn't argue people off of the full game as well. Jalen Brunson's liable to have a big game. But I like the Heat. I think they're just undervalued at 104.5.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The team, that's a great look there, too. I kind of like that team total angle. And I think it's correlated. Listen, if you like the Knicks tonight, we should be looking at their team total over. No, Veno? I mean, it's if we like Miami, should be doing the same thing. I think both of those bets as well, we can just stack them and go. Give me the Knicks, give me the team total over, give me the game over. Because I don't see a scenario where the under is correlated in either of these teams. If that would be the case, it would be an absolutely disgusting game and would not, they'd have to be shooting 20% from all over the place. And I don't see that happening, Veno.
No, it shouldn't. I mean, Miami is in the playoff mindset now. As you mentioned, they got most of their guys back. It's time to go. It's the last 7-8 games of the year, and they've shown it. I mean, they scored 142 against Portland just a couple of games ago, right? And then they came back with something in the 1-teens against a bad defensive team. But again, I'll just say that when OG Anunoby came to the Knicks, they were playing lousy defense, and Thibodeau was going crazy on the sidelines before they got him. They got him. The defense picked up. He got hurt. The defense went south, and now he's not playing again. It does correlate. OG Anunoby and Knicks allowing the other team to score is a real thing. So I think Miami team total over might be the best of all the looks.
Shout out to Mr. Ritter there, as well as Philly Picks and the Kraken in the house on Instagram. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget, if you could hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, we certainly appreciate it. Shout out to those of you joining us via our YouTube channel, as well as a live vertical feed there on YouTube Shorts. We appreciate it, guys. Give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate that as well. I am seeing some San Antonio Spurs questions and love, and I get it, given the fact that they're getting, 16 now against Denver. And as I'm looking, Jamal Murray still questionable. Sokan, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell all out. Wembanyama looks like a go here. Boy, is that kind of a big number there, 16 points. Are you leaning that way, Veno, one way or the other? I mean, San Antonio has done a fantastic job of cashing tickets for backers with big points just like this with this team.
Yeah, and San Antonio becomes – they've been this way for the last couple of years, Joe. They're very, very interchangeable. Even back to when Derek White was on this team with these guys. They would just, a couple of guys would sit, a couple of guys would step in. They're basically the same team all the time. Now, Wembanyama obviously makes a difference. Without him, they're slightly different. But the fact that Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sohan are out for the season, I think with Sohan, it probably takes away a little bit from their defense. You step in with guys like Cedi Osman and Malachi Branham, and they're like 9 of the same guy on this team. So I don't know how much it affects them over the long haul. The problem, the simple question is the point spread is the great equalizer, right? Denver's going to win this game. Denver needs this game. They're off the blowout of Cleveland the other night after 2 really poor performances where they had not scored 100 points in either. Then they come back against Cleveland, rack up 130. Jamal Murray had been hurt last week, seemed pretty good on Sunday. They seem healthy. But with the nagging injuries that they have, because Jokic is even playing hurt. He said he's just playing through the pain right now. No big deal. But if they get the big lead in the third, then those guys sit down. Or maybe let's say they don't even get a big lead in this game. Even still, does Michael Malone go all out and play these guys 38, 39 minutes? Probably not.
Yeah.
And so the bench comes into play, and then the 16 and a half comes into play. So I think even though I fully believe Denver's going to win the game, what's the big rush to win by 17? There probably is none. They know OKC's down a couple of guys tonight real quick.
Yep.
And Minnesota probably wins as well, so they need to keep pace. San Antonio is probably the right look from that perspective.
Yeah, it would be San Antonio or pass in that spot here. Just at this point in the season, I don't think Denver's interested in anything. I'd be shocked if Jamal Murray is still questionable. Why go at this point? You got to pick and choose your spots, give him a little extra rest here at this point. I've done my best to try to avoid any Houston Rockets talk because I have a feeling that our producer is just going to shut us all off if we're not on Houston here tonight. But this is actually, I saw this as 8 last night, and then I saw the money start coming in on Houston to drop this thing down to 7.5. So we still know, obviously, Cat is still out. Cam Whitmore back active for Houston. Other than that, I'm not seeing from an injury perspective anything that scares me in this game. The number scares me. The total is dropping 216 to 214 and a half. I mean, Andy, Rockets against the Timberwolves here. The total is coming down here. Does that mean we should be looking maybe to fade a guy or two in this game?
I don't know what to do with this game. I'll just be honest. I can't really discover a prop in this one that I really like. I mean, I guess you could look at a Green. He's coming off a bad scoring night. What, 12 against Dallas?
Yep.
But before that, 34, 37, 27, 41. So he was due for a clunker. It's just, is he going to rebound from that? It's a good defense, Minnesota. I wouldn't say it's as good as it was, earlier in the season, but there's too many questions. I think the numbers are pretty dialed in. So I'll be completely honest and say this game's a pass for me. I just can't discover any good trends or any good feels. I think there's too many other props that I like on the board better than anything in this game.
All right, so hold on now. That was a fantastic Swiss ass flag remark by you there, Andy. We haven't gotten one in a while. I'm just saying we haven't gotten one. It was very nice, though. We got the Swiss flag out. Absolutely stepping on nobody's toes with that one there. So we certainly do appreciate it there. Veno, I know you don't have that kind of grace in you. So tell me exactly how we're betting the Minnesota Timberwolves here and how we should approach this game. Or do we look at Houston?
Well, we know we're probably going to get 48 minutes out of both sides here. Houston's fighting for their play-in lives, right? And it's slipping away. They lost the other night. They've lost 2 in a row now. So it's kind of slipping away. Golden State. And, if you're of the conspiracy theory, you probably believe that no matter what, the NBA would kick the Rockets behind Golden State anyway and not let Houston in the playoffs. But that being said, they're playing hard. They're going to come here and play hard. What's interesting to me and the most fascinating, Joe, is the way Minnesota just continues to cover numbers. Last game, notwithstanding, without Karl Anthony Towns. They really haven't missed a beat without him. They're 7-2 against the spread last 9. They just lost their last game. So Houston enters off of 2 losses. Minnesota enters off of 1 loss. I talked earlier about how OKC, Denver, and Minnesota are all striving to get that number 1 seed. It's important to all 3. So full effort out of both. Houston wants that running game, right? They want to push that pace. And I just don't know that Minnesota allows it here. So I don't know that I could pick the side in this game, and the total to me, probably the correct movement. I always believe that the home team can dictate tempo for this part, which means that it would probably stay under. Minnesota's just that way, priding themselves on defense. Now, nothing that I played myself, but if I had to look, I would probably look under in this game.
Shout out to Just a Hebrew in the chat room telling us that Houston, we got a problem. And I think we might have a problem here tonight. I do think you are spot on with that. Also seeing, by the way, the Kings, once again, we've got a line. We got a line move here, guys, and it looks like 3.5 are starting to pop up across the board here in this game with Sacramento and the Clippers. Now, if you're just joining us, the Clippers, no Kawhi Leonard's been ruled out, but I'm not seeing anything beyond that, and the market is absolutely crashing on this, as well as no SGA and no Williams for OKC. That went from 5.5 to -1 now for OKC, and I'm also seeing 218s starting to pop up. So the total is also crashing in on this one here. And Andy, you mentioned a couple of other places you would look for a prop or two here. Give us one of the other games maybe that you've looked at here that you think is worth a look-see.
Oh, I've been playing this one for clients. Take a look at Aaron Gordon. If Jamal Murray is out, play is over 3-pointers. It's just half. He just needs to hit one. Jamal Murray's been out the last 3 games, and he's had one in each of them. When Jamal Murray is in, he doesn't hit one. It's very strange. You would think with Jamal Murray in, he would maybe hit more, but it's the opposite. It's less. So I've been playing that one for clients as well. Free plays all over the place. So I would take a look at Aaron Gordon over 3s, but you got to wait until Jamal Murray news. That's the key. You got to wait and know if Jamal Murray is in or out. We've covered so many things on there. I think that's the only big one that I have for tonight. That one and the Keontae George under were my 2 favorite ones. in this one, especially the Keontae George. That's a free play that's loaded up on WagerTalk right now.
Ooh, get it done there. I'm with you on that. I think we're gonna get some points here tonight in a few of these spots. Veno, are you shocked with any of this line move here? Really starting to come in for Sacramento here, and I don't see anything else outside of Kawhi, but that's about an hour old, and the money is starting to roll in here now. Are you surprised we've gone this far?
A little bit, Joe. The only thing I can add to that game that might affect the Clippers that we didn't talk about earlier is it's kind of a weird road trip, right? They spent the first 3 games on the East Coast. They fly all the way back home, but it's not to go home. It's to go to Sacramento and finish the road trip, which is kind of weird. 3 East Coast games and 1 West Coast to end it. It's possible that, the Clippers haven't been playing well anyway, right? Andy talked about how bad they've been defensively. So it's possible that fatigue is in it. And the way they've been playing, Joe, I'll tell you, if we go back to that Philadelphia game last week where they got the referee call at the end to win that one, up until that point, it looked like they didn't care much about winning games. It was kind of head-scratching that they're in that 4-5 battle, and they kind of didn't even seem like they cared much about getting into a home floor seed. So I don't know. There's a lot of love for Sacramento here. I just don't know that Sacramento's the same without Herter and Monk, so that it wouldn't get my money laying 3.5. I'd be more apt to play the underdog, but perhaps taking what Andy said into consideration, total would be a good way to look. Kawhi's the best defender on the team. Maybe you just look over at this point in time.
Yep. Still waiting on Kuminga, too, as well for Golden State. Still hovering around -1 for Golden State here tonight. I think we're all in agreement here that we're going over the top here with 3.5 with Sacramento, though, with the Clippers. They've got depth. If they have anything, they've got some depth there. Also up and available right now at WagerTalk.com. Talk to me, Andy Lang. What do you got locked, loaded, ready to roll here tonight?
We've got an MLB and NHL pack that is number 1 in NHL for the season for units, for ROI, for winning percentage. And in MLB, we're very low volume, but we're on a 4-0 stretch. So we won our last 2 bets of the year last year, won our first 2 bets of the year this year. So just put a couple plays up. And I do have to keep telling everybody, next week is the Masters. It's a huge week for us at tea time. And, here at Wager Talk, it's probably the biggest golf event of the year. We got some really, really big things planned. Looks like we're going to be doing a couple shows, a lot of extra things to get people ready for that. So for tonight, MLB and NHL. But next week, we're going to do the Masters upright and get everyone ready for a big, big week of golf bets.
Yeah, I can't wait for that too, Andy. It's going to be awesome. K-Dog Marshall in the chat room, Veno. This is right up our alley, too, here, talking about the New York Knicks under 52.5 in the first half. I am thinking he might be onto something. Good old K-Dog might be sniffing around something there, Veno. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to talk them off. And Miami, as I mentioned, is trying to avoid a season sweep. And with all their guys back, there'll be some intensity on that side of the floor. My main focus in this game was on the Miami team total for the full game to get up and over, just because I don't like the fact that OG Anunoby isn't in the lineup to defend. But, 52.5 is a lot to ask, and maybe that could be right. I mean, I can't talk them off it. Let's put it that way.
Listen, if it's raining threes, good luck. I still think it's a dead over this game here, and for either team. I really do. I still think it's going to be a dead over. Even if it's a little slow to start the game, still think it's going to be a dead over when it's all said and done. Justin Hebrew, just loving his Clippers. He said, get over it, everyone. The Clippers are still going to keep the 4 or 5 spot no matter how much you hate on them. They're still coming here, and the Clippers, well, they're going to have to do it tonight without Kawhi. Dallas is going to have to do it without Derek Lively. It should be a very interesting game here tonight. A good card here in the NBA. Not something we've had a lot of here over the final week here as we get ready for just about 7-8 more games Another 2 weeks in the regular season. Then, of course, it's playoff time. Won't be a whole ton of questions there. We'll have a whole lot of content surrounded about who to play, who not to play. I know who S. Warriors playing tonight, and it ain't the Knicks. I will tell you that right now. Shout out to all of you guys joining us in the chat room. Shout out to those that are joining us on Instagram. We certainly appreciate you there, as well as X, and of course, those in the YouTube chat, both on our page and on YouTube Shorts, watching us on their cell phones in the vertical feed. Do us a favor if you could, guys. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, and of course, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and become part of the WagerTalk TV family. We've got you covered from every sport here. Like you said, check out Andy's golf coverage. Masters coming up here. Rob Veno's got you covered. Major League Baseball. It's a fun time of year, and certainly hope you guys will come back and join us again as we do it for the Wednesday edition tomorrow. Until then, on behalf of Andy and Rob, best of luck with all the plays here tonight, guys. Crush it. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good luck.